taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
But he's just not a teacher. Black people now want to be taught. They don't want to be just spoken to. They want to learn something now. They want to clear the smoke.
So what is his purpose?
You have to ask him that. You can't ask me what his minister of fire conference. You have to go to him and ask him that.
Peace and love, peace and love, peace and light. Everybody, what's going on, man? It's your boy M.O.I. in the building for sure. Let's get this thing kicked off, man. Been trying to tap in with y'all for a minute. StreamYard doing some new weird stuff, so forgive my tardiness. Hop up in the chat. Hey, listen, let's go ahead and get this thing shared, man. Let's share it. I don't think everybody's getting notifications. Whatever the case is, make sure we share it. Hit that like button. Rael in the building. Peace and love. Dad Bay in the building. Peace and light. Hope we're all L's in the building. The L's in the bays are the wheels in the ways. Islam. Islam. Got the faithful Moors in the building today. So I just want to dive right into this subject matter. Let's go to the book that we're more familiar with. Let's just go ahead and get into this subject matter. So today we're dealing with the good book, or what's commonly referred to as the good book. One of the good books. You know, there are several great books when it comes to learning these lessons, but one particular that we would commonly refer to as the Bible. So today we're going to take a look at some of the things that the Bible is made up of. Like what makes up this book and what is this book? A lot of people don't even know that the Bible is actually two books. It's two different books comprised in one. It is the Greek, what's known as the New Testament, or commonly referred to as Nova Testamentum or Nova Instrumentum. Or is also referred to as the Injil, but that's the Greek, that's the Greek rendition, a Greek translation version, and then the Old Testament, which is the Torah, commonly referred to as the Pentateuch, which are the first 5 books of Moses, as it's commonly referred to as. It's not the same as we'll see the Talmud. So go ahead and get your notes together, guys. Let's take some notes real quick. Write down Torah. Then outside Torah, we're going to talk about the Talmud. We're going to talk about the Septuagint and then the Vulgate. Just giving some light contextual references to what these things are and or what they consist of. As I mentioned, we're going to start with the Torah. Let's see what we can find what the Torah is real quick. Torah. We're going to do Wiki as our quick reference. That's the only reason we're using Wiki. It's just for a quick reference. No other reason at all. Please, as you guys already know how I teach, don't believe a word I say. I'm not here to convince or persuade anybody. This is just information. But please do your own research and let me know what you come up with. So we're going to start right here with the what's commonly referred to as the Torah. It says the Torah instruction. It means instructions, teaching, or law. It is a compilation of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. Write that down. Write down the Hebrew Bible. Hebrew Bible. Write down the Hebrew Bible. That's going to be important later. Namely, the books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. All right. We know what the book of Genesis deal with. That is the generational creation. Exodus, we all know Exodus means the exiting, just by the word itself. Leviticus is the law. You have Numbers and Deuteronomy, which circumscribes a certain way of living and order of these tribal ancestries of Adam, who later are the progenitors of people like Abraham and Moses and others, Isaac, Jacob, not saying others. In Christianity, the Torah is also known as the Pentateuch. That's what I was saying earlier. So saying Torah or saying Pentateuch is like saying the same thing. Torah, Pentateuch. Now, when you say the Talmud, there's something different. Or what's sometimes we'll look up the what's called the Sefer HaRasa literature, the book of the upright ones. In Arabic, they were called Mukmin or Mukminati, meaning of the book. We'll deal with that in a second too. In Christianity, the Torah is also known as the Pentateuch, or the first 5 books of Moses. In rabbinical Jewish tradition, it is also known as the written Torah. If meant liturgic purpose, it takes the form Torah scroll. So again, we're talking about the Torah first. We're gonna keep digging in on the Torah real quick, just to get some context to what we're talking about. People, they know about the Torah, but never have read the Torah. It reads a little bit different than the common Bible. For example, in the Torah, you would see words like Elohim as referred to in Genesis, rather than seeing the word God, and that gives a whole new meaning. You would see Nahash and not serpent, which would cause you to go in different directions of research. See right here, the Sefer Torah. What I was saying earlier, the Sefer HaRasa literature, the Torah scroll, book of the upright ones. I'm gonna get ahead of myself. I just keep going in order. If in bound book form, the Codex was a historical ancestral format of modern books. Technically, in the vast majority of modern books use the Codex, formatted of a stack of pages bound to the edge along with side and text, but the term Codex is now reserved for older manuscript books. If it's a bound book, let's keep this in mind. The bound book is called a shamash. A shamash is a Torah imprinted in book-bound form as opposed to a scroll. So they're saying the Torah of the Old Testament was never in book form, like a bound book form. These were scrolls. These are ancient scrolls. So even when we talk about the word scriptures and the way we see the Bible now, it was never in this ancient form. It was never in a bound book form. Okay, it was on scrolls, but when it's in a bound book form, it's called a shamash, and usually printed with rabbinical commentary, Persha. This is very important information, I think, to understand the difference between what is called when it's on its scrolls and what it's called when it's in its bound form. I think that's important. Rabbinical literature, the word Torah denotes both 5 books, Torah that is written, and the oral Torah that is spoken. It has also been used, however, to designate the entire Hebrew Bible. Remember I told you earlier to write down the Hebrew Bible? Keep that word in mind, Hebrew Bible, or write down that term, please. It's very important in a second. Hello? Yes. Give me a second, fam. Hold on. No, I don't. Apologize about that, family. I had to take that call. That was an important call. But back to this. If you have any questions, please drop your questions in the comment box for sure. So let's continue on learning about the Torah, because I think something's interesting is going to happen in a second as we read. So it's called, the entire definition of everything is called the Hebrew Bible. That's what it's called in its entirety, this according to this information. The oral Torah consists of interpretations and amplifications according to the rabbinical tradition, have been handed down from generation to generation, are now embodied in the Talmud, in Midrash. So write down the Talmud. I told you we'll talk about the Talmud also. So this is something different. The Talmud is, after the Hebrew Bible, the central text of the rabbinical Judaism and the primary sources of Jewish religions, laws, the Jewish theology until the advent of modernity in nearly all Jewish communities. The Talmud was a centerpiece of Jewish culture, life, and was the foundation of something. So the Talmud, we're going to get into that in a second, though, and it was called the Midrash. The Midrash. The Midrash is expansive Jewish biblical exegesis, using a rabbinical mode of interpretation prominent in the Talmud. The word itself means textual interpretation, study, or excessiveness, excessiveness, derived from the root verb derash, which means restore, to seek, seek with care, inquire. It's called the Midrash. So the Midrash in the Talmud is the verbalization in Jewish tradition. It was known as the Talmud and the Midrash. Rabbinical traditions understand that all the teachings found in the Torah, both written and oral, are given by God through the prophet Moses at Mount Sinai. We're going to talk about this too. Write down Moses and write down Mount Sinai. And we're going to go take a look at Moses right now and deal with this written literature that was supposedly passed down. Because as we were taught, Moses only received 10 commandments. Moses didn't receive a book, right? Let's read it again for understanding. Rabbinical traditions, understanding is that all of the teachings found in the Torah, both oral and written, were given by God through the prophet Moses, some at the Mount Sinai and others at the tabernacle. All the teachings were written down by Moses. All the teachings were written down by Moses. Let's take a pause right there. All the teachings. How much is all, everybody? Everybody in the comments, how much is all? All is all. All of the teachings were written down by Moses. You know what I find interesting is something else that, watch this. I'll pull this verse up. Because what we're not going to do is act like Moses just jumped out the womb with this information. I'm going to redirect your attention. 1 second. To redirect your attention over to Acts. The book of Acts tells you who Moses absorbed his wisdom from. Acts 7:22. That's where we're going to go. Acts 7:22. We're going to change this to the King James Version. Boom. Refresh that right there. All right, now we got the KJV. Acts 7:22. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptian and was mighty in words and deeds. Acts 7:22. Acts 7:22. Okay, now let's go back to what we were just reading about the Torah. and Moses having this profound wisdom and knowledge and information. This was given to Moses at Mount Sinai, this information. We're going to talk about who was at Mount Sinai and what was really happening at Mount Sinai. We're going to go to Mount Sinai in the scriptures and see what Moses actually written down. And I want to just put it out there that the first set of laws given to Moses was given to Moses, not written them down. Moses had to rewrite that information down. I'm going to show you that in a second in the scriptures. It says, according to the Midrash and Torah, according to the Midrash, the Torah was created prior to the creation of the world and was used as the blueprint for creation. Though hotly debated, the general trend in biblical scholarship is to recognize the final form of the Torah as a literary and ideological unit based on earlier sources largely completed by the Persian period, with possible some later additions during the Hellenistic period. The words of the Torah are written on a scroll by scribes called Sofer. In Hebrew, a Torah portion is read every Monday morning and Thursday morning at shul. Shul, not S-O-H, not S-H-O-L-E, shul, but shul, school, synagogue. But only if there are 10 males above the age of 13. Reading the Torah in public is one of the basis of Jewish communal life. The Torah is also considered a sacred book outside of Judaism. In Samaritanism, Samaritan Pentateuch is a text of the Torah written in Samaritan script. Semantics, semantics written in Samaritan. This is semantics. So a part of the Torah is also written, was called the Samaritan Pentateuch. This is in semantics and used as a sacred scripture and by Samaritans. The Torah is also common among all different versions of Christians. Old Testament and in Islam, the Tawrat is an Arabic name for the Torah within the context of Islamic holy book believed by Muslims to have been given by God to the prophets and messengers amongst the children of Israel. So the Torah carries over all the way into what was known as the Quran also, or the Quran. It carries all the way over there, which we all should know that by now. So that's the Torah. Let's see if we can learn a thing or two about this Moses and this Torah. Moses on Mount Sinai. Let's go learn about Moses at Mount Sinai for a minute, shall we? Now we probably should just dive right into the Bible, but let's find out what was happening at Mount Sinai. The climb. Let's start with the climb. I think this is a safe space to start at. Now Moses just had led the children of Israel out of Egypt, supposedly, right? This just took place. Moses was in this mountain for a pretty good amount of time. Moses and the Israelites traveled through the wilderness to Sinai. Moses spent 40 days and nights on the mountain. So just over a month, Moses was gone. Led a lot of people out. They couldn't find him in over a month. They don't know what he's doing. They have no clue at this point what's happening, right? The Lord's commandment. The Lord spoke to Moses and wrote the 10 commandments on a stone with his finger. Then the 10 commandments are or a list of rules that establish worship and prohibits actions like murder, theft, and adultery. The Lord spoke to Moses, pay attention, and wrote the 10 commandments. Now, who wrote the commandments according to this? We're going to go into the scriptures in a second, but according to this, who wrote the 10 commandments? The Lord, not Moses. It said the Lord spoke to Moses and besides speaking, he also wrote the 10 commandments. The Lord did, not Moses. And of course, we know about the golden calf that was created by Aaron. But let's see if we can get into the chapter itself and find out exactly what was going on. For that, let's go to the book of Exodus. Book of Exodus. Exodus. Book of Exodus. Let's go to Exodus 1. I'm coming out of the Bible Gateway. We got to go to the KJV version. Of course, let's change it up. When you have it, type amen in the comments. If you're following along in the book, I mean. Let's see what Exodus talks about. Now, Exodus, it immediately opens up with the, and this is important too, to take into account, the children of Israel, of Jacob, or the 12 tribes. I'm pretty sure we're familiar with the 12 tribes, the tribes of Israel. I'm pretty sure we're familiar with that. Let's talk about these tribes. Now, these are the names of the children of Jacob. Now, not that these are the only 12 descendants of Israel or the house of Abraham. These are not the only 12 children, okay? Because Jacob's uncle, Ishmael, which is Isaac's brother, follow the story. Ishmael also have 12 children or 12 tribes. They're called the Ishmaelites. You have the Israelites, which are the descendants of Ishmael. So this side of the family, this particular part of the family, is said to be the ones who receive the direct blessings from the Most High, right? Although Ishmael and his mother also receive blessings from an angel as well. Blessings on both sides. This is a blessed family. So let's talk about the tribes for a second before we go into Exodus. Now, these were the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simon, and Levi. Those are the first three children. And there's also something important that we should learn about. There's also we should learn about Reuben, Simon, and Levi being the first three children of Jacob. Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, or his mother Rachel was going to name him Ben-On, and his father came and changed the name to Benjamin. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All these souls came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already. Now Joseph is the other son of Jacob. Joseph has two sons by an Egyptian woman. Their name are Ephraim and Manasseh. So Ephraim and Manasseh also are Israelites and Egyptians because Jacob welcomed Ephraim and Manasseh into the Israelite family. You follow me? So Israelites are Egyptians. Not that Egyptians are Israelites, but Israelites are Egyptians or can be Egyptians. So on and so forth, right? And Joseph died, and his brother and all the generations, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased in abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So this is a whole other bloodline coming into Egypt. This is a crazy story. This is a crazy story. Not crazy isn't crazy, but crazy story. This is a new bloodline. We should find out what happened in Egypt at this time that a new Egypt is coming in. They didn't even need Joseph around. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of Israel are more and more mighty than we. So this was a recognition that this Egyptian was saying, wait a minute, these Israelites are everywhere. They outnumber us. They outnumber us. Too many of them. I want to back up for a second and go back. Book of Exodus. Let's go to Moses. I'm going to fast forward a little bit through the book if y'all don't mind. I'm going to Exodus 19. Who's going to Exodus 1? Exodus 19 now. Go read the story. It's better than it could ever be told. I promise you. So this is when Exodus 19. Let's start at 19:3. And Moses went up to God. The Lord God called from him from the mountain, saying, This the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I carried you on eagle wings and brought you to myself. Now then, if you will obey my voice and keep my agreement, you will belong to me from all the nations. You will belong to me from among all nations, for all the earth is mine. You will be to me a nation of religious leaders and holy nations. These are the words you will speak to the people of Israel. So now let's just slow down for a second and ask ourselves, what is happening in this story? Like, what is happening so far? Moses took people from Egypt. They were Egyptians at this point. They were not Israelites. I'm sorry. Sorry. I understand. Hear me out. They were there for a very long time. Like 400 years. Their thinking, their tradition, their way of not, like, I don't even know how many generations it is, how many new generations it is. You got to think, how many generations are we, us in our 30s and 40s, and our children in their 20s and teens? How many generations are they away from their grandparents? And I only asked that question because what were your grandparents doing that is no longer even valid, or void, or not even practicing anymore in 2024? That's a short generational gap. So imagine 400 years ago, traditionally, a lot of things are not being kept or preserved as they were. So these people being in Egypt for over 400 years, and then their new leader learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. That means all. We agreed earlier that Moses was learning all of the wisdom. That means the language, the hieroglyphics. He knew about Mayat. He knew about Dozier. He knew about Queen Hatshepsut. He knew about Sheb, Geb, Shu, Nut, Tefnut. He knew about all of them. Osiris. He knew about all of them. That's all Moses knew. Moses grew up in Egypt. Not like Jacob now. I mean, not Jacob. Joseph. Joseph took up residence in Egypt for a short while and was able to do some cool shit, right? But Joseph and Moses and Joseph, this entity that is talking to Moses is creating a new contract, a new agreement, a new covenant is being established. Why am I making that so plain? Because look at what it says. Look at what it says. This is the conversation agreement. I can show you where this agreement happens a second time in the scriptures with Jesus. I can show you who was trying to make an agreement or a contract with Jesus. Listen to what it said. I'm going to read it one more time. This is the entity talking to Moses. Start with 3. And Moses went up to God. This is on a mountain. This is not in the heavenly realm nowhere. This is on a mountain. This is on a mountain. This is a mountain conversation. This is Mount Sin, or also known as Mount Sinai, or not Sin. And Moses went up to God, and Lord God called him from the mountain, saying, say this, this is the entity telling Moses what to say. Say this to the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I carried you on eagle wings and brought you to myself. Now then, if you will obey my voice and keep my agreement, you will belong to me from among all nations, for the earth is mine. Let's stop right there at the end of 5. For the earth is mine. Let's go find out who's talking real quick. Can we do that real quick? Can we go find out? Let's go find out real quick who's talking, and then we're gonna circle back to that. Let's find out who's talking. Boom. All right, here we go right here. So we're keeping in mind the last part of 5, right? There's a conversation between Moses and this entity, and this entity is trying to have Moses make an agreement and keep a new agreement with him. This is all gonna make sense. I promise you. I'm gonna come out the Torah and I'm gonna go back to the Septuagint and I'm gonna walk you backwards through the Septuagint to show you what I'm talking about as well. Just stay with me in the Torah real quick, or the Old Testament they call it. We're talking about Moses on Mount Sinai having a conversation with something, and this thing is trying to get Moses to agree to a new agreement, a covenant. And I can take you back to where Abraham first receives the covenant of Melchizedek, and Melchizedek makes an agreement with Abraham. Okay, that's going to happen also. Like, these agreements are going to be made. These verbal agreements between these angelic features, these angelic beings, or these hierarchy. I don't know what to call them. Gods, deities are making agreements and contractual obligations with humans on earth, and these humans are then holding this contract over the humans who did never agreed to it. When Moses come down from Mount Sinai the first time, you're going to see, well, not the first time, but the time he broke the tablets, Moses orders the Levitical priests to kill the people who were worshiping the bull calf. He took the molten bull calf and he made them drink it. And then he slaughtered, not Moses, but Moses ordered the killing after receiving the 10 Commandments. Moses go down immediately and violates the 10 Commandments. But let's find out who this deity is real quick while we're talking about this. Remember, 5, we're in Exodus. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. This is this God talking to Moses, and how I carried you on eagle wings and brought you to myself. Now then, if you will obey my voice and keep my agreement, you will belong to me from among all nations. For all the earth is mine. You will be to me a nation of religious leaders and holy nations. These are the words you will speak. Now, let's go find out who this is, because he just said this shit is his. This is what that thing just said. And I'm going to show more confirmation, so just hold on. 2 Corinthians 4:4. This is the good book, y'all. This is why I call this episode the good book. This is 2 Corinthians 4. 2 Corinthians 4, Satan, who is the God of this world. It's a comma, so we got to stop for a second. So now we understand, have I talked before, who this earth belongs to. And we're referencing Exodus, when that entity told Moses, this is mine. Satan, who is the God of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe. They are unable to see the glorious light of the good news. So now we know, according to the Bible, who this world belongs to. We just heard the reference in Exodus, a conversation between Moses and his entity told Moses, this is mine. And let's go confirm this. Let's go confirm this some more. Let's go confirm this some more. Matthew 4:8. Matthew 4:8 through 11. Matthew 4:8. We're still on this mountain, because remember, Moses is at a mountaintop having a conversation. This is at another mountain conversation. Listen to this conversation. You tell me the similarities between the conversation of Moses and that deity and this entity talking to Jesus. Watch this. The devil takes Jesus to a high mountain, shows him all the kingdoms of the world. The devil offers Jesus the kingdoms if he worship him, but Jesus refuses him. Jesus quotes in Deuteronomy saying, worship thy Lord God and only him. Serve him with absolutely single-heartedness. The devil leaves and the angels come takes Jesus. That's a synopsis of it. Let's dive into the scriptures of Matthew 4, 8 through 11. Let's see if we can just get this up here real quick and we can go and dive into this. And we're still at the mountaintop. A conversation that happens at a mountaintop, and the thing that just, what the where else was I? The entity that just told Moses. Watch this entity tell Jesus the same thing. You decide for yourself what's on this mountain, and then we're gonna move on. So this is Matthew chapter 4, verse 8. Let's start there. And again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in his splendor. And all this I will give you, he said, if you bow and worship me. This is the conversation. What's up, Jeremiah? This is the conversation that this devil is having with Jesus, and basically telling Jesus, this is mine, I'll give it to you. In the same conversation, this is NIV. Let's go to KJV verse, see if we can get a different understanding of this. And I hate that they changed the different versions, man, because you really get another understanding when you get into it. Here we go. And again, the death tempest actually place and show all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. Yeah. Same conversation. Now we have a mountain, we have a temptation, we have a verbal agreement between the devil. Let's see if we can track the same information down with Moses on that mountain also, right? Here we go. On the mountain, you have seen what I've done to Egypt. If you obey my voice and keep my agreement, you will belong to me from all among the nations, for all the earth is mine. This is the entity talking to Moses. We just saw what entity that was talking to Moses. That's the point I try to make in right there on that situation. Now, because we're dealing with the Torah, the Torah or the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of Moses, I want to give you a quick peek into what that was dealing with the Torah. Now I want to go to something else called the Talmud. The Talmud, write that down. The Talmud. Let's read about what the Talmud is real quick. The Talmud, Hebrew. The Talmud, Hebrew teaching. After the Hebrew Bible, the central text of the rabbinical Judaism and the primary source of Jewish religious law, the Jewish theology. Until the advent of modern in nearly all Jewish communities, the Talmud was the centerpiece of Jewish culture and was the foundation and was foundational to all Jewish thought and aspirations, serving also the guide for the daily life of Jews. The term Talmud normally refers to the collection of writings and named specifically Babylonian Talmud, compiled of 5th century by Rav Ashi and Rabban II. There are also earlier collections of the Jewish Jerusalem Talmud, Talmud Jerusalem. It may also traditionally be called Shah, a Hebrew abbreviation for Shasha Seradim, or the 6 orders of the Manasseh. The Manasseh is the first written collection of Jewish oral tradition that are known as oral Torah. It is also the first work of rabbinical literature with the oldest surviving material dating back to 6th and 7th century BCE. Please write that down. That's going to become very important in about 5 minutes when we crack open some more information about these writings and where they come from. And we already know that the Bible deals with Egypt, right? I just read to you when Moses was leaving Egypt. When Moses was leaving Egypt with the Israelites and got to that mountain, that deity made it pretty clear that he brought them out of Egypt, away from the Egyptians, and Moses was learning all the way of the Egyptians. So what you're going to keep seeing is the Egyptian overtone to this conversation as we go on. We already know the Egyptians were the first ones with papyrus, right? Paper, printing of paper. Those scrolls had to be written on something. The Jews weren't the first one to write on scrolls or papyrus. And they tell you that Moses brought the Israelites out of Egypt. Did you ever find out how they got in Egypt? They walked in Egypt, but had to be escorted out. All right, let's keep going. Remember that 6th century, was it 6th century? Yeah, 6th and 7th century BCE. Okay, so something important in BC time, you count backwards. So if it'll be 7th century, 6th century, 5th century, 4th century, 3rd century, 2nd century, 1st century, then it goes into AD. 1 AD, 1st century AD. Okay. And when you see the word CE, that means around that time. Around the time of 200. The Talmud was two components: the Manisha, which was the component of the oral Torah, and so it looks like it was the oral Torah. Let's go back to the Talmud was two components: the Manasseh, right here, a written component, comprehensive, of the oral Torah, and the Gemara, which is a central component of the Talmud, and the eculation of the Midrash related to the Tanakh. That's a lot. It's a lot of writings. Subjects expound broadly on the Hebrew Bible. The term Talmud may refer to either Gemara alone or the Menashe, the Mishnah and Gemara. Talmudic traditions emerged with the literal period that could be brackened between the destruction of the Second Temple and 70 AD until Arab conquest in the early 7th century. That's interesting as well. All right. So we got the Talmud. We got the Torah. We got the Talmud. Let's go to another good book. Where is it at? Let's go to the Vulgate. Well, no. We have to go here first. Let's go to the Septuagint. The Septuagint. Let's go to the Septuagint. We're going to learn about the Septuagint, okay? So at this point, we should have the Torah written down, the Torah, Talmud, Torah, the Talmud, and now we on the Septuagint. Some people say Septuagint. I don't know why they say Septuagint. It sounds crazy. But the Septuagint. The Septuagint sometimes referred to as the Greek Old Testament. So we have to understand that the New Testament of the Bible is the Greek, and the Septuagint is the Greek Old Testament. So why am I making that distinction? Because the Bible itself is the Old and New Testament. So the Greeks got their own version of this. The Greek also has there's a Grecian version of the Torah. That's what I'm saying. There's a Greco-Roman version of the Torah that's called the Septuagint. It's called the 70. Do you guys see that? The Septuagint, sometimes referred to as the Greek Old Testament, the translation of the 70. Let's read on. Remember that. Keep that in mind, though. Write it on your paper. Write the word Septuagint. Write Greek Old Testament. Write 70. The translation of the 70. Septuagint. Give you a second to write it down. Write Greek Old Testament. Then write the translation of the 70. Keep Egypt in mind while we're talking about this, right? Keep the time frame in mind. I know we're talking about the Greeks, but we have to understand human history, what was happening according to human history. This was after the invasion of Egypt. Remember, we just read that there was a new pharaoh coming who was not favorable to Joseph, right? Shoot, let me see if we can pull it back up. Is that in Exodus? No, that was in hold on. What chapter was that in? That was in first Exodus. Yeah, that was in first Exodus. Exodus 1. I wasn't in Acts. Give me a second. Yeah, that was Exodus. Let me show you something real quick. And this just came to me, by the way, so let me give me a second to Exodus 1. Watch this. Let's go to Exodus 1 real quick. Exodus 1. Forget my background noise, y'all. My neighbors are doing grass something. Okay. Exodus 1. Remember, they was going through the list of names of the Israelites who went to Egypt with Jacob. These are the names of the Israelites who went to Egypt with Jacob. Remember, Moses is gonna run from Pharaoh. Remember that part when Moses ran from Pharaoh? And then Moses had to convince the Israelites that they had a new God on top of the mountain. Remember, we're going to go back to that as well. But this is the story. So now the Israelites, at least the 12 sons, they return back to Egypt with Jacob. Did you know that? These are the names of the sons of the Israelites who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family, Reuben through Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. So Ephraim and Manasseh was already born at this point in time when he came in there. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all these generations died. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died. So at this point, there are no 12. The original 12 Israelites are gone. Dan, Levi, Judah, Zerubbabel, Issachar, Benjamin, Simon, Levi, all are gone. There are no more. These are the original Israelites. They're gone. The OGs are gone. But the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful, meaning they still had a lot of cousins, nephews, uncles, nieces, daughters, etc. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the lands were filled with them. The new king, who Joseph meant nothing, came into power in Egypt. The new king who came into power when when Joseph was there, did not find favorability in these people. Do we see that? Right? Let's go learn who the new king was of Egypt real quick. Then we're going to come back to the Septuagint. So I'm going to come out the Bible, go into human history, then go back to the Bible. Stay with me. This is the new king coming into Egypt. We have to find out who's the new pharaoh coming into Egypt that was not favorable unto the Israelites. And at this time, supposedly, the only thing that the Israelites had contextually are scrolls, verbal scrolls, as well as written scrolls. At this time were known as the Pentateuch, because Moses already came down the mountain with the laws. They already got their laws and their edicts and what they can and cannot should be doing. The Torah is ready to go. In fact, inside of the the Ark of the Covenant, those laws are in the Ark of the Covenant, along with the staff of Moses and some other cool stuff that has the cherubim angels on top of it, supposedly. But now we're talking about this. A new king who did not know Joseph. Now the Israelites come into Egypt. This is Exodus chapter 1. Chapter 1. These are the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob. Jacob walked into Egypt. Who knew that? Press 111 if you already know that Joseph went to Egypt. Jacob went to Egypt, not Joseph. Joseph was already there, apparently. How many of you guys knew that Jacob, the leader of the Israelites, went into Egypt? I know you guys knew about Moses bringing them out of there. How many of you guys put 111 in the comments if you knew that? Put 000 if you never knew that. Or, you just never knew that. Give me a 111 if you already knew that the Israelites went into Egypt. Not by Moses, but by Jacob. Put one that the Israelites went into Egypt with Jacob. Now, I think what we should do is press forward. Oh, yeah, I will show you something else. I forgot what I was doing real quick. So now Joseph and his brothers, they all died away. Then a new king whom Joseph meant nothing, meaning this new pharaoh didn't give a damn about Joseph and the Israelites. That's what that meant. This new king knew nothing of Jacob and Joseph, none of them niggas. Let's look and find out who this new king is real quick. of Egypt. This is the new king of Egypt. Now, just hear me out. Okay, let me finish my point. At the time of Israel, the Israelites and Moses and so on and so forth, there was no Jesus. Give me a 222 if you agree with me. The conversation we're having about Moses and the Israelites and these Egyptians and this new Egyptian God not being favorable. This new Egyptian Pharaoh not being favorable to Joseph. This is BC time. This is before Christ. This is my point. This is before Christ. This is before Christ. This, because I want nobody to get confused. I want nobody to be confused about nothing I'm trying to say right now. All right, this is Exodus 1. I'm sorry. That's not what I'm trying to go to right here. I'm trying to go back to I took it down. It's right here. Let's go back here. Exodus 1, yeah. Exodus 1. Exodus 1:8. Exodus 1:8. Please write that down. I'm about to make this point. Y'all, please follow this point. Please follow this point. Exodus 1:8. Write down Exodus 1:8. And then you go verify what I'm about to tell you right now. This is BC time. This is before Christ. This is BC time. Okay? So write down Exodus 1, verse 8. Out beside it, put BC time. I'm gonna give y'all a second to write that down, please. Exodus 1:8. Then put BC time. I just typed it in the comments. Exodus 1:8 BC time. Then a new king whom Joseph meant nothing. Meaning, you don't mean nothing to me, bro. I don't even know you. Came into power. And this is what that king or that Pharaoh said. Look, he said, his people, the Israelites, has become far too numerous. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, that they will become even more numerous if war breaks out and will join, blah, blah. He's concerned that the Israelites are going to overthrow Egypt at this point. This is a concern. We have to put these people in order. This is the new king who came into Egypt, who Joseph meant nothing to. All right, we got that. Now let's go talk about this new king real quick. Oh, my bad. I had it right here the whole time. Let's go talk about this new king real quick. Yep, I'm going here because this is where it goes. This is exactly where it goes. Okay. Now, right underneath where you just wrote Exodus 1:8 BC time, I need you to write Ptolemy I Soter. Write this down. I know we talked about it before, we discussed it before, but now I'm connecting the dots for y'all. I'm trying to connect these dots for y'all. Just bear with me. Ptolemy I Soter. In quotation marks, not quotation, in brackets, you're going to put BC time. Just like you put Exodus 1:8 BC time, you're going to write Ptolemy I Soter BC time. Ptolemy I Soter BC time. I just put it in the comments for y'all. You should have these two things written down. And I'm going to show you the correlation between Exodus 1:8 BC time and Ptolemy I Soter BC time. Remember, Exodus 1:8 said a new Pharaoh was coming into Egypt who knew nothing of Joseph and his people. Jacob just got there with his people. Jacob and the Israelites just got there. And all those OG Israelites passed away. They died. But the progenitors, the generations of the Israelites remained in Egypt once again. It's all BC time frame, all right? Ptolemy I, the Savior, Soter, beside the word Soter, just write the word Savior. That's what that word means. The word Soter means Savior. Ptolemy I, the Savior. Oh, man. I'm about to tie it in for you. Not only am I about to tie in the fact that this is Ptolemy is talking about, I'm going to show you where the Septuagint, because we're going back to the Septuagint, the Bible, that book. We're going to go back to the Septuagint. Remember the word 70. I'm going to show you those 70 Jewish scholars and who commissioned these 70 scholars to write the Septuagint. So not only does Ptolemy I link to Exodus 1:8, I'm going to give you the book that they got out of this Exodus. I'm going to show you the Septuagint origin out of this Exodus also. Just stay with me. Ptolemy I Soter, a Macedonian Greek, a general historian, successor of Alexander the Greek, who went on to found the Ptolemy kingdom centered in Egypt. Ptolemy was boyless. The Greek term title has significant variants of monarchs throughout history. In English-speaking world, it perhaps most widely understood to mean monarch, referring to either king or emperor. The title was used by sovereigns or persons of authority. And he was a pharaoh. You don't see it. Okay, let me. You're not going to see any mention of a Greek pharaoh prior to Ptolemy. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see any Greek pharaoh prior to Ptolemy I Soter. You're not going to see any Greco-Roman pharaoh. He's the first Greco-Roman pharaoh, the only thereafter. His whole dynasty takes over Egypt. Exodus 1:8 talks about what? A new what? Who didn't listen. I ain't got no love for y'all Israelites. Matter of fact, it's too many of y'all over here. This is the thinking of the Greeks. Watch this Greek pharaoh, Exodus 1:8. Stay with me. He ruled from 305 BC. I told you it's BC time. Isn't it quinky dinky how Jacob and the Israelites are BC time, and then you got this story is BC time. And okay, let's keep going with BC time frame. He ruled from 305 BC to his death in 282 BC. Remember, BC, you count down. His descendants continued to rule Egypt to 30 BC. Whoa, from 300 BC to 30 BC, hundreds of years. During their rule, Egypt became a thriving bastion of Hellenistic civilization in Alexandria, the great seat of Greek culture. Ptolemy I was the son of Arsenal, the Macedonian, by either her husband, Legus, or Philip II of Macedonian, the father of Alexander. However, the latter is unlikely and may be a myth fabrication to glorify the Ptolemaic dynasty. Ptolemy was one of Alexander's most trusted companions and military officers. After the death of Alexander in 323 BC, that's when they took over Egypt, 323 BC, Ptolemy retrieved his body and en route to be buried in Macedonia, placing it in Memphis instead, where he later moved to Alexander in the new tomb. Afterwards, he joined the coalition of Perdiccas, the royal regent over Philip III of Macedonia. The latter invaded Egypt, but was assassinated by his own officer in 320 BC, allowing Ptolemy I to consolidate control over the country. After a series of wars between Alexander's successors, Ptolemy gained the claim of Ptolemy gained a claim to Judah. and South Syria. Ptolemy gained the claim to Judah. Why am I emphasizing his claim to Judah? Because if I'm showing you that the Judites, by way of Jacob or Jacob, were in Egypt and they passed away, the descendants of the Judites. Now, how is it a coincidence that this new ruler of Egypt that is mentioned in Exodus 1:8, and I'm showing you the new ruler in human history, Ptolemy, is coming in, has a right to the throne of Judah? Those Israelites, they're mentioning Judah while we're talking about Ptolemy I Soter, the new Pharaoh, after I just showed you Exodus 1:8, the new Pharaoh of Egypt. Let's keep going though. And southern Syria, which was disputed with secluded King Seculus I, who he also took control of Cyprus and whatever this place is right here, and latter the place under control of Ptolemy's stepson Magus. Ptolemy also commanded the construction of the Library of Alexandria, which is very important because the Library of Alexandria is where he housed all the Egyptian manuscripts. He burnt down all the temples in Egypt, Ptolemy did, and put all those sacred scrolls into one library called the Great Library of Alexandria. And it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. Of course it is. So this is Ptolemy I Soter, the new Pharaoh of Egypt, who knew nothing about Joseph or the Israelites. Now his successor, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, write him down. Here's where we're going to go back to the Septuagint. Remember the Septuagint, what it was called. I'm going to show you the Septuagint. But write down Ptolemy II Philadelphus real quick, and then we'll go back to the Septuagint and we'll wrap it up for the day. I appreciate y'all for definitely tapping in, man. Make sure y'all share this. Share this, man. Hit the like button. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get my likes up, get my YouTube popping. I'm over on TikTok too. Jumping like Jordan on TikTok. If you want to throw a donation, the Cash App is right there on the screen. I appreciate y'all for any donations. That'd be great. And I only ask for donations because, you know, this platform, StreamYard, costs money. You guys see the little StreamYard logo in my corner? I never have that, but because money's owed, like they want money. They want like $42 a month. $42 a month to live stream the way we've been doing. And the only way to really keep this going is through donations. Like the donations is given for this information goes right back in the pot to keep the shit live for y'all. So it's like a paid subscription, not a $14 subscription. This is a $44 commitment that I would have to make to continue to live stream in such a manner. So yeah, just pay subscription. If you can donate. If you can't, that's all good. Let's keep going though. Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Let's write that down real quick. Now, let's go back to our Septuagint. Remember this right here? Let's read again what this is. We're talking about the Greeks and the Egyptians, by the way. Let's keep in mind what this is. The Septuagint, sometimes referred to as the Greek Old Testament, right? So let's just call it the Greek Old Testament. Let's just pretend this is the Greek Old Testament, which it is. So write down Greek Old Testament. Now, according to the Old Testament, the book of Exodus is included in the Old Testament. We just read Exodus 1:8. We didn't read it in the Greek version. We read it in the English, a standard English translation. But did you know there was a Greek Old Testament prior to the one that we have right now? It's known as the Septuagint. Let's learn about the Septuagint. It is a translation of the Hebrew Bible from the original Hebrew. So the Septuagint is the translation of the original Hebrew Bible or the original Hebrew into the Greek, which now makes it what? Septuagint. So let's imagine for a second Egypt prior to the new Pharaoh coming. let's say the old Pharaoh, the one who had favor with Joseph, was there. Joseph was a Israelite, but he was also an Egyptian. He was blessed into the family. He was also a consort, an advisor to the Pharaoh. Moses, who was prior to Joseph, was learned in all the ways of the Egyptians. That means the people that Moses brought out of Egypt also was learned in all the way of the Egyptians. Now you have Hebrew and Egyptian connection by way of Moses, by way of Joseph, by way of Jacob, who comes back, and all of the Israelite children begin to populate and cause grave concern for this new Pharaoh who comes into Egypt. Septuagint. It was also called the translation of the 70. The translation of the 70. We're going to talk about those 70s right now. Let's keep reading real quick. Now it says the full Greek title derives from the story recorded in latter Aristides to Philocrates that the law of the Jews were translated into Greek language at the request of Ptolemy II, Philadelphia, by 70 Hebrew translators, 6 from which the 12 tribes of Israel. I can cut the mic off right now, but I'm gonna run it back to tie it in for y'all. Okay, let me run it back. Just run it back for y'all one more time. I'm gonna pull it full circle for y'all right now. Okay, so this guy, Ptolemy I Soter, is the new Pharaoh who comes into Egypt in Exodus 1:8. Okay, this guy, Ptolemy Soter. Ptolemy I Soter also gives you Christians. Did you know that? Watch this. From the Four Tyrants, 8, volume 8, 1, volume 8, I think it is. In Alexandria, he relates, those who worship Serapis are in fact Christians. Those who call themselves bishops of Christ are in fact the devotees of Serapis. I'm going to highlight devotees of Serapis. I'm going to set it right here. Watch this. Devotees of Serapis who worship the god Serapis, a Seratic deity that combined the aspects of Greek and Egyptian gods. Exodus 1:8, a new Pharaoh came in from Greece and began to combine the gods of Greece and Egypt. The Greeks are living near Syracuse worship Serapis as Osirapis or Osiris. Osirapis is Osiris. Egyptian worshipped Serapis. We're talking about Serapis because Ptolemy I gave you Serapis. Followers would offer sacrifices in hopes of answers to their prayers or give thanks for prayers he answered. As the god of healing and fertility, many worshipped him and they believed he was the one who could heal them. This is Serapis. Serapis is linked to, hold on, Ptolemy. Ptolemy creates Serapis. Ptolemy I Soter created the god Serapis to blend in Greek and Egyptian religion to gain acceptance as a ruler of Egypt. He is the new ruler of Egypt. Exodus 1:8. This is Ptolemy I. Now, Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, he comes along and he creates what's called the Septuagint, or he commissions those same Jews who was already in Egypt to commission what's called the Septuagint. Are we following me? Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, the Greek ruler of Egypt in the 3rd century BC, commissioned the translation of the Hebrew Bible into the Greek, known as the Septuagint, for his library of Alexandria. I just showed you earlier that Ptolemy I created the Library of Alexander, which was the library that housed all of the manuscripts of the ancient Egyptians. The Levites were also knowledgeable of this information too. The Levites were prior to this though, but you know what I'm saying? They had information as well. As the Levites, as the Levitical priests were exiting out of Egypt with Moses, they had gained information of those sacred scrolls, is what I'm saying. So Ptolemy II commissioned the book called the Septuagint, right? The Septuagint is the Hebrew Bible written in Greek, because a new Greek ruler was coming into Egypt in Exodus 1:8. So I hope you guys understood exactly what I was saying. Ptolemy II Philadelphus was the second ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Alexander, an enlightened ruler. He demanded a translation of the first 5 books of the Old Testament, or the Septuagint, for Alexandrian Jews who were more commonly spoken in Koine Greek than Hebrew. We understand. We got that. Check. Hey man, listen, I want to thank y'all for rocking with me today, man. I won't be before you long as I try to get in and out. That's my new strategy, is to get in and out now. Teach you guys for about an hour straight and then jump off the thing, man. But I appreciate you so much. Remember, you definitely can be a blessing by paying it forward, hitting the Cash App. Thank y'all for tapping in. Be sure to share this, bro. Like, share this live. This is my new strategy, to hop on, hop off now within an hour. I was told that I go too long sometimes, so I just want to, be respectful of everybody's time. I might tap back in later on tonight, man, with some more information. I got a hit joint coming up called I think it's called the Black Queens of Europe that I'm gonna dive into. Be sure to check me out over on TikTok as well. Drop a like, join, shoot me an email, the MOI podcast gmail.com. It's been peace and love, man. Every time I see you guys check in, man, I definitely appreciate the ride, brother. So thanks for tapping in. Peace and love.